6k. This is Undead, bringing you Burning Abyss. So this deck has a lot of competitive success in both TCG and in Duel Links, but it has fallen a little bit to the wayside in Duel Links, so I wanted to give a little bit of a comprehensive breakdown of the deck, because I believe that it is actually a lot better than people give it credit for in Duel Links right now. One of the new best decks in the game, Mekknights, was just released into the game, and with that deck being able to lock out both spells and traps from the opponent, this deck is going to be able to play through that pretty easily, considering the fact that it is a majority monster based deck. Really, what this deck is trying to do is spam out level 3 monsters so that they can create Dante, use Dante to create Beatrice, and use Beatrice as a very powerful interruption / follow-up on the opponent's turn. Especially focused on summoning level 3 monsters to the field from the hand. Every Burning Abyss has the effect that if you control no spell or traps once per turn, you can special summon a card with this name from your hand once per turn. Every Burning Abyss also has its own unique graveyard effect that cannot be used if you use that special summoning effect, so it is very important to keep that in mind. Maybe it might be worth normal summoning your Burning Abyss rather than special summoning it if you really want that graveyard effect. The Burning Abysses also have a downside effect, because so far all I've said is very powerful effects. Being able to special summon themselves for free, having graveyard effects, that's really good in Yu-Gi-Oh! But they do have a downside. If you control a monster that is not a Burning Abyss, they will automatically destroy themselves. This actually can be a little bit of an upside. If you, for example, control a Beatrice, which is not a Burning Abyss monster, and you normal summon your Farfa, Farfa will immediately destroy itself, which will trigger its graveyard effect, Fiendish Rhino Warrior. This, while it is on the field, has a continuous effect that actually protects all of your other fiends from being destroyed by battle or card effects. This is unintended synergy with the Burning Abyss. So this has always been played in TCG and in Duel Links alongside the Burning Abyss. But it does have an added bonus effect that if it is sent to the grave, you can send another fiend from your deck to the grave. So this is going to be great for picking any particular graveyard effect that you want, right? Also have Tour Guide from the Underworld. Normal summon, it will special summon a level 3 fiend from your deck with its effects negated, and it cannot be used as synchro material. What is great about the fact that it negates the effect of the fiend that you summon from the deck is it will also negate the effect of the Burning Abysses to blow themselves up if you control a non-Burning Abyss monster. So you could use Tour Guide to summon any Burning Abyss from the deck, and that Burning Abyss will not be destroyed because that effect to destroy themselves is negated. So with all these effects that will let us get level 3s on the field, right, we can make our generic rank 3 that happens to be a part of the archetype, Dante, Traveler of the Burning Abyss. Once per turn, mill the top 3 cards of your deck as a cost, or 2 cards or 1 card, it is your choice, and then it will gain 500 attack for every card that you send that way. The great thing about this effect is that that mill is a part of the cost. Oftentimes a mill will be an effect, so if your opponent negates it, you do not get your beneficial graveyard effects. Dante's effect being a cost means that if the opponent negates it, we only lose that attack boost. We do not lose the mill effect, and the mill effect at the end of the day, the mill cost I should say, is what we actually are aiming to do here. Because of all of our graveyard effects, it is a very high chance that we will hit something off of our milling 3 that will actually benefit us in some form or fashion. For example, Skarm, which on the end phase of the turn that it was sent to the graveyard, will search for a level 3 Dark Fiend. That is everything in the deck except DD Crow and Kairoid. Fiendish Rhino Warrior also cannot be searched by it, I forgot to say, because it is in fact an earth monster. Seer, which if sent to graveyard will immediately revive one of your Burning Abyss monsters. Fortunately does target the monster that you are trying to revive, so it will lose to DD Crow. Farfa is the most important one in this particular deck other than the consistency ones, because it is the one that lets us banish our opponent's monster during either player's turn using the Beatrice, which I will explain later. this is essentially the main way to interrupt the opponent. It is most often better to remove the opponent's monster than to negate it, because if we negate it, they can at least still use it for extra deck plays. The downside of this though is that when we banish our opponent's monster, it will come back on the end phase. So we do have the skill Mind of the Planer, or Plana, I don't know, to permanently remove from the game any of our opponent's banished cards. The way that works is we essentially have the banish pile, which originally was supposed to serve as like the graveyard that you can't get things back from, but in the modern state of the game, we can kind of get things back from the graveyard and the banish pile with the greatest of ease. But what the skill does is it permanently gets rid of our opponent's banished cards from the game. They cannot access them again. They simply no longer exist. Makes Farfa's removal effect permanent if we use it on our turn. Libitch, or Little Bitch, which can, if sent to grave, special summon a level 3 Dark Fiend from hand, and its effects are negated. Of course, our Burning Abysses don't actually have effects while they are on the field. All of their effects are in hand or in the graveyard. The only effect they actually have on the field is the self-destruction effect. Negating that effect is going to be beneficial for us. So this is kind of an extender, technically a survival play if we do it on the opponent's turn. So it's really nice. We also have Alec, which is kind of like the other interruption play in the deck. We do have the Farfa to banish their cards, but we have the Alec, which can negate their monsters, just in case the negate is going to be better than the Farfa, or if we have run out of Farfas. Rubik is the only one that does not have a grave effect, but what is good about Rubik is that it is a tuner, allowing us to go into our synchro plays essentially. And then last of all, we have Barbar. Its graveyard effect is essentially to target 3 Burning Abysses in our graveyard, banish them, and then burn our opponent for 150 burn damage each. So it would do a total of 450 burn damage. It could potentially come up, but realistically, the only reason we would be playing this is because it is a 1700 beat stick. Sometimes we need that to go for game. So we have all of these grave effects, and what makes them all so good? Dante, if we detach a material from it, and that material happens to be a Burning Abyss, you can activate that effect because it does not specify where it was sent to the graveyard from. So you could detach a material from any of your Xyzs and then activate the effect of the Burning Abyss that you detached. The great thing about Dante is you could potentially detach one Burning Abyss and mill any amount of Burning Abysses, which will get you a plethora of graveyard effects. What's even better is we can do it on the opponent's turn by using the quick effect of Beatrice. Of course, we will have the quick effect detach, which can get us the quick effect graveyard effect of whatever we detached. Also a quick effect send to the graveyard any card from our deck, any card at all from our deck. So we have Kiteroid that we can send from the deck to the graveyard to protect our life points. We have Galaxy Cyclone to, on our next turn, destroy a face-up spell trap our opponent controls. And we also have all of our Burning Abysses that we could send either for a follow-up play or an interruption with these two, or a survival play with this one. We here are trying to play as many level 3s in the deck, not as many graveyard synergy cards, because the deck has enough graveyard synergy to hold its own. Most decks that have monsters that float when they go to the grave, floating means to have an effect when you hit the grave. Most of those decks do not have floating effects on their extra deck monsters, but in this particular deck, they do. Dante, when he dies, or is sent to the graveyard by any means, you can get any of your Burning Abysses from your grave back to your hand. Beatrice, when she dies, gets to special summon any of your Burning Abyss monsters from the extra deck. That could be your Dante, and it could be your Virgil. Virgil, when it dies, lets you draw a card. Virgil, you can discard a Burning Abyss on your turn to shuffle any of your opponent's cards into the deck. So often what is going to happen is we are going to use 2 level 3s on our first turn to summon Dante. Maybe we will detach something if we need it, like if we have a Scarm as material, we can detach it, mill 1, then on the end phase use a Scarm to search for something. But after summoning that Dante, we can discard another Burning Abyss to summon Beatrice by using it as material. We cannot use the Beatrice's effect the turn that we summon it by that method. However, it is going to be an incredibly versatile interruption on the opponent's turn. And on the opponent's turn, if the opponent happens to kill it, we could potentially summon a Virgil, and if they then kill the Virgil, we get to draw a card. So with all this floating, we are going to be gaining card advantage instead of losing card advantage. Our game plan usually revolves around turn 1, setting up our Beatrice as an interruption, and then on our opponent's turn, preventing them from killing us, and then on our follow-up turn, we have amassed enough card advantage to, generally speaking, be able to kill them right away. We have DD Crow to be able to banish cards from the opponent's graveyard. This is good against almost every single deck in the game, so of course it is good to main deck 3 copies of it. And then of course we have Mystical Space Typhoon. This is a format with a lot of searchable, very powerful back row, so having MST as much as possible is going to be helpful for us to play through that. So I have number 47, Nightmare Shark. Oftentimes we will be in a situation where we have already dealt damage with one of our extra deck monsters, but we have not dealt lethal. So we can summon Nightmare Shark to make itself the only monster we can attack with, but it can attack directly. So a direct 2000 attack to the dome is going to be game a lot of the time, and this comes up a lot more often than you might imagine. And then last but not least, we have Super Quantal Mech Beast Grand Pulse. We can just call him Grand Pulse or MST on legs. He has the effect that we can detach a material to target a back row and destroy it. So stop talking about it and get right into the gameplay itself, shall we? Our opponent here is playing Tellarknights. I tend to go against Tellarknights whenever I'm trying out a rogue deck. That's just the way the algorithm gets me. But yeah, their hand's going to be good enough to allow them to actually go into Triver turn 1, which is going to be good for them. It's going to allow them to discard my DD Crow on the first turn. So they have their counter trap, which will negate and destroy my Tergite from the Underworld. This is a fantastic thing to negate. He did not misplay at all. He's also going to be able to get the floating effect of his Triver to revive his Altair, which will revive his Deneb, which will get him a search. He's doing fantastically for himself. Unfortunately for him, I do have 2 Burning Abysses in my hand, which is it's a very consistent thing for this deck to be able to do. So I'm going to go into Dante here. I don't have another Burning Abyss, so I can't go into Beatrice, but I can mill 3. I mill really well. I have my Fiendish Rhino Warrior and my Seer. Seer's going to be able to revive me a Libic, and Fiendish Rhino Warrior is going to be able to send Dante, which will banish his Deneb. The reason I banish his Deneb is because I am trying to use my skill on it, as you'll see here. Banishing his Deneb and then permanently removing his Deneb from the game, because I do not want the Altair that he searched to revive that Deneb and get him additional searches. That Altair was only going to be able to revive his Vega or one of his Xyz, which is not as good as a Deneb. I don't have lethal, but I have done a decent amount of things. I also forgot to say in the explanation that Dante, after it attacks, will change itself to defense. So the fact that the attack boost is only till the end of the turn isn't that big of a deal, because it does have a fat 25 defense. So he's going to use the Altair, revive an Xyz. Thankfully for him, he does have a spell that can summon from deck. He's going to get his next Deneb, put the Triver back. He's going to search for Vega. He's going to go for the whole Triver play once again, bouncing everything. Thankfully for me though, he does not actually have enough for attack for game after doing this whole play. He does have card advantage, but at the end of the day, I have Fiendish Rhino Warrior and I'm about to top deck a Burning Abyss. And that's all I need for game, pretty much, because after I go into my rank 3 Xyz and detach my Fiendish Rhino Warrior, the Fiendish Rhino Warrior is going to be able to send me a Tharfa, which will get rid of his Triver, and I can finally attack for game. So my opponent is going first here. They are playing 6 Samurais. A very good deck. I have been testing with it recently. It is pretty nice. I do have a nice combo here. I'm going to go into my going second play. If I do happen to have the tuner, I love doing this. My first play being Virgil. Of course, I'm going to use Fiendish Rhino Warrior to send Skarm because I already have Farfa as discard fodder. So I'm going to use my Farfa as discard fodder, targeting his back row because after the chain resolves, the Farfa will activate to target Shien here. He activates back to the wall and banishes my Farfa, so I can't use my Farfa anymore, which is a big deal. If you use DD Crow in response to a cost, the resolution of the chain, the Farfa will not be in the graveyard to trigger its effect. So it's a good play from him. I do, however, have 2 remaining cards in my hand, both Burning Abysses. So because he paid all of his life points to use back to the wall, I can go into Nightmare Shark, detach, and attack for game by going directly. Alright, so I'm finally going first here. I'm normal summoning Skarm, right, because I actually want to use his effect. Remember that if I special summon any of my Burning Abysses, I cannot use the Grave effect on the same turn. So I special summon Libich, go into Dante, use Dante just to detach it and mill 1. Detach a Burning Abyss to summon Beatrice. I technically only have 2 cards left here, but because of the amount of value that Beatrice is going to give me, it actually is a lot more. So Skarm is going to search for me a tour guide, of course. They are playing Dragunity, so I'm just going to let them play it out. They're going to normal summon the tuner, which can revive this. Here, I am going to send a Farfa instead of trying to negate this. I'm sending a Farfa because it is on summon. If it is on summon, right, and I send my card that will negate it, then the chain will resolve before my Burning Abyss that I sent will be able to activate. So it is better to remove their card than to negate it, because it will not be a useful negate anyway. So Dante is going to get me back my Skarm. Farfa is going to banish the Gizarm. This guy's effect has been negated because he was summoned by Gizarm. I'm going to be able to Tour Guide, Fiendish Rhino, Dante again. I really just have everything, so I can just do whatever I would like. The fact that I was able to prevent him from synchro summoning was pretty much all I needed to win the game. So I can extend here. I purposefully revive Farfa so that I can use its effect again, because it will be destroyed because Beatrice is not a Burning Abyss. So I'm just flexing at this point and I just go for game. My hand here, unfortunately, is not going to be able to let me make a Beatrice, but I can make a Dante, and that is going to probably be enough to let me survive. I'm going to mill. I have Fiendish Rhino work, so I can send whatever I like. I'm going to send a Skarm. Skarm on end phase is going to get me a search. Just note that I do not set my MST here, because if my opponent for some reason is not playing back row, then me having my MST here is going to turn off all of my Burning Abyss's effects to be able to special summon themselves from the hand. Additionally, I do not want my back row removal to be removed, so I would rather them set their back row and me activate my MST on my turn. I happen to be playing Mekknights, the deck that I believe makes this deck valid. He could use his effect to banish a Mekknight from grave to destroy anything in the same column, right? But I'm going to use DD Crow to get rid of that Mekknight in the grave. But he's going to add back that yellow star. He's going to attack me. I'm going to float. I'm going to add back the Skarm to my hand. He has this spell that if there is a Mekknight, right, any traps that activate in this column would be negated. Any of mine, that is. And he has this trap set here that any of the Mekknight columns that he has, if there's a spell that activates in this column, then that's negated too. So I'm going to use the grave effect of Galaxy Cyclone to destroy this, because it wouldn't be negated regardless. And I'm going to use MST in this column to negate that, sorry, to destroy that. I'm going to normal summon this because I'm trying to use its effect, special summon this because I'm not trying to use its effect. Go into my Dante, detach that Seer so I can get a revive. Seer is going to revive my biggest one. Farfa is going to banish his one, and Alec is going to negate his one just because I might as well. I'm going to detach my Skarm to summon Beatrice. That is in fact going to destroy my own Barbar because Beatrice is not a Burning Abyss. However, this deck is famous. This Mekknight deck is famous for playing Kairoid, so I would rather have the interruption than maybe having game. Skarm, of course, is going to get me a search, which is great. I'm going to search for the tuner in case I need to synchro summon. He's going to get his search off. He's going to summon. I'm going to use Beatrice right off bat to send Farfa. I also detach Dante so I can add back Farfa. Farfa is going to banish his monster. He does, however, have another monster he can still special summon. He's going to be able to attack me. After I float into Virgil, he attacks me. I draw a card off of Virgil, and I have lost nothing. Farfa brings back his card, but I have Fiendish Rhino Warrior. I'm going to go into my Synchro Summon right now. Actually, no. Yeah, that's true. I could have gone into a Synchro Summon, but instead, because he has 1500 life points, I might as well just attack him directly, right? Fiendish is going to send a Skarm just to flex. I'm just going to attack directly. This guy has a quick effect to move one of his zones. It doesn't matter though. I'm attacking directly. GG. Opponent is going first here. They're playing Goukis. They are going first, so they opt to do their link plays. I'm not going to be able to OTK them regardless, so I'm just going to go for my Dante, go for my Beatrice. Attack into him. He's going to get his search off. I do have the DD Crow to help, hold him back a little bit. Gouki is a little bit of a troubling deck to go against because of the amount of floating they have as well. So they're going to go for a combo here. They have Rhoda. They're going to go for their suplex. They're going to normal summon and then special summon from hand. They're going to go for their Link 2. Of course, both of those are going to allow him to search for 2 cards. I'm just making sure to hold my my effects for the very final moment that I need to, because if I interrupt him too early, he can very easily play through it. He's going to use Rematch to resummon 2 from grave. I'm going to use DD Crow so that he's only summoning 1 from grave. He's going to go into his Link 3 that reduces my attack for the amount of defense I have. Since I have 28 defense, I lose 28 attack. He's going to boost himself up, and then when he goes into the battle phase, that's when I use Beatrice's effects to send Farfa to get rid of his Gouki. Dante is going to add back my Skarm. Farfa is going to banish his Link monster, and I'm going to go back to my original attack. He is still going to be able to attack into me, but I will float into my Virgil. Libic will negate it, but Libic will summon from the hand, so I already have lethal as long as I discard to the shuffle back Tour Guide to summon my other Fiendish, go into Dante. I have lethal just by gaining my attack, but Fiendish will continue by sending another Farfa. I can banish him. DD Crow will banish my Farfa. It is too late, however. This is actually the good thing about Fiendish Rhino Warrior, that it'll be better to send a Fiendish Rhino Warrior to grave, because if I send Fiendish Rhino Warrior for cost, right, they could banish whatever, right? It's fine, because on resolution I will send whatever card I want. Okay, on resolution, new chain, it'll be fine. DD Crow will not ever be able to do anything as long as Fiendish Rhino Warrior is what is being sent. But if I send, let's say my other material was a Burning Abyss, and I send that as my cost instead. Then he could chain DD Crow and prevent me from getting that graveyard effect. That is what is so great about using Fiendish Rhino Warrior. I'm going to use Mind of the Planer to get rid of all of his banished cards and easily attack for game. So this deck is a lot of fun to play. It is competitive. Although I should say, you can go into time pretty quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So take your time with practicing this deck offline a bit, maybe, if you're feeling uncomfortable, and then go online. But if you're feeling like you're competent, then you can go right online and you're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of wins. I ended up getting a 10-game win streak. This deck and these ratios are really solid. A lot of people would play 2-seer. You can do that if you like. I just value being able to use Farfar on my opponent's turn, then immediately use it again on my turn without having to do any shenanigans. This deck is good at getting your stuff back with Dante anyway, so I can easily forgive you for playing 2-seer. But yeah, apart from that, let me know how you guys feel about these ratios, about this deck. Let me know about your experiences about the deck, and if you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll see you next time.